Hello everyone, and this is my review for WWE Monday Night Raw for June 3rd, 2013. And just to pretty much go off and say, I felt that this week's Raw had very little in the terms of story build going into the pay-per-view. You did have at least a little bit of a... you had a little bit of a continuation between Ryback and John Cena, and not really too much interaction between them. It was pretty much them interfering with one each other's actions in their matches. Of course, a little bit of furtheration of Chris Jericho and CM Punk, even though we haven't seen CM Punk yet. It's more of an aspect, will CM Punk show up, all that type of aspect, so you see a little bit of continuation on with that. And then what seems to be Wade Barrett, Fandango, and The Miz, more likely going to be a triple threat match for the Intercontinental title. Honestly, I like 2/3 of that match. I really don't care much for the Fandango character. It's not growing on me in any way, shape, or form. I really just don't like it. But other than that, you didn't really get much in the terms of a furtheration of too many storylines going in there. It looks like you're getting a lot more rehashing of storylines and matches from last pay-per-view. It looks like they're keeping Team Hell No with the whole Shield deal. Of course, Randy Orton's been against the Shield for quite some time now, and he's going to continue on with that. But more than likely, an aspect against Dean Ambrose or something like that, so it's a little bit different into a one-on-one situation. But all in all, I just felt in the terms of story building, they didn't really do much in the terms of building towards the Payback pay-per-view. Now, granted, they did have some very good quality matches in there with with Team Hell No, Randy Orton versus the Shield. That was a great quality match, fun match to watch. Of course, Sheamus with Cody Rhodes was another fun match. A little bit of continuation on whatever storyline they're really going with him and Damian Sandow. I don't know if they're aiming for a pay-per-view match with them in some way, shape, or form, but you have some kind of continuation with their feud that they've started on SmackDown. Now they're bringing it over to Raw. We'll see if they continue on with that or if it even becomes a pay-per-view type match. Let's see here. What other matches I not like? I liked, again, even though it's happened for the 5th time now, the Big E Langston Alberto Del Rio match has been a fun match to watch. Obviously, they've got to keep Alberto Del Rio in some way, shape, or form tied into Dolph Ziggler, considering Ziggler is not in on the actual show yet. He hasn't been cleared to come back to the show, so hopefully they can throw something together really quick if they're even aiming for the pay-per-view in general for their match in some way, shape, or form. We'll see if they have that or they continue the storyline past this pay-per-view and go on to the next one. Ryback and Daniel Bryan was another great match. I like the aspect of, it seemed like, Ryback was going after his normal, I'm just going to beat everybody down, beat them down until I can throw them in the ambulance, and Daniel Bryan, of course, counteracting it every single time. It was a fun match to watch, great, just a great overall match in my mind between the two of them. Of course, that was one of the altercations that they had with John Cena. He came out to stop Ryback after he put Daniel Bryan through one table, preventing him going through others. And of course, I actually ended up liking this week's Curtis Axel and John Cena match. It gave them a chance to show a little bit more, and they're showing a little bit more of what Curtis Axel can do on a weekly basis right now. The matches are progressively getting longer. They're getting better. Of course, they haven't allowed him to have that definitive win in any way, and of course, he doesn't really have a storyline outside of the aspect of him being a Paul Heyman guy, and he's, Triple H is about to try to come after him. I'll talk about that here in a moment as well. But overall, I felt that was a good way to end the show. Of course, it ended with Ryback coming out there and stopping John Cena. It was a no disqualification match, so he attacks him outside the ring, causes him to get counted out again. And, overall, matches on Raw this week I felt were actually really good. They did a really good job of performing matches. It just didn't, in some areas, it didn't really make any sense towards the pay-per-view unless they're going to be putting some of these matches on there. They haven't really announced anything yet, and they only have really 2 weeks before the pay-per-view, so they got to start announcing matches when they've only really announced 2 at this point in time, and one of them you don't even know is really going to happen. More than likely it will. But basically, one of the main focal points, at least for about the first hour and a half of the show, was it was initially announced that Curtis Axel was going to go up against Triple H. Triple H was medically cleared type deal. They're playing off the angle from a couple of weeks ago, and it was going to be time for Triple H to try to exact a little bit of revenge on Curtis Axel, which at the beginning of the show led Stephanie and then Vince come out and basically saying they weren't going to allow Triple H to go out there, risk his health against Curtis Axel in any way, shape, or form. And of course, Triple H wasn't buying into that, but it did eventually end up leaving, saying he didn't want to beat up the grandfather to his children or anything on the show, but said, next week when we go on the air, I'm going to have the match type deal. And honestly, it would have been interesting to see if they would have tried doing that angle again where he collapses during the match in some way, shape, or form, even though he's been medically cleared to go in the ring, or if that's what they're going to do for the next week, or is this going to be the actual moment where Curtis Axel gets this definitive win or something in that way, shape, or form. Obviously, we don't know where they're going to exactly go with next week. They say that the match is going to happen. Obviously, they could go in a completely different direction with a storyline. Maybe it'll even become a pay-per-view match now. We'll see where they actually go off with it. But all in all, I felt this week's Raw, in the terms of story building, was a little bit weak. The build that you did get, you didn't really get much of in any way, shape, or form. It's kind of been what you've been seeing over the last couple weeks anyway. And match quality, I felt, was really good this week. They did a good job in that sense. But the show just meshing them together, just kind of comes out to an okay show. Not really good story building, but you had some really good matches in there. So yeah, that's my review for WWE Monday Night Raw this week. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you enjoyed.